Hi there, I'm Stacey. I'm a transformational therapist and life coach, and I work with astrology to help you recognize patterns and evolve using cycles and time. My work is directly tied to how growth unfolds, how clarity turns into action, and how we learn slowly and imperfectly to make choices that move us forward instead of keeping us stuck. Each month, I teach you how you can work with the current lunar cycle because the moon is a consistent and reliable tool for personal growth. Each new moon serves as a key to unlocking how we can evolve through different themes depending on the zodiac sign that's leading the cycle. And every cycle plays out in 4 weeks. Each week gives us four natural points of evolution: clarity, awareness, accountability, and choice. If you watched my Capricorn lunar cycle video last month, you'll notice that this month's Aquarius lunar cycle builds directly on what we have just established, and actually what we've been established for some time. Capricorn asks us to build strong foundations for our visions and our goals, and Aquarius is now asking, what are we going to do with what we've been building? Before we get into the cycle itself, I recommend having a pen or your notes app open because I'll be sharing key dates and moments that you might want to return to as checkpoints later on or for the future during the month ahead. This Aquarius lunar cycle runs from February the 15th through March the 16th, and its core theme, as always with Aquarius, is innovation. Not innovation for novelty's sake, but innovation in service of something larger than ourselves. I'll be walking you through the 4 weeks of the Aquarius lunar cycle in a few moments, but first, I want to share the significance of this specific cycle. This is not just a new moon in Aquarius presenting the opportunity to evolve with an innovation. This new moon is a solar eclipse, and it marks the beginning of this eclipse season. We have 2 eclipse seasons each year. They're heightened periods of time where we're accelerating what's been forming and clarifying some of our choices. And they bring us face to face with what we're beginning to start, what we're ready to begin, or what we're ready to end. Over the last year and a half, we've been working with eclipses in the sign of Pisces. And those have been asking us to envision and idealize what it is that we want for ourselves in our next chapter. We've been imagining our potential and sitting with uncertainty based on the reality that we live in. That's been a really big theme that's been happening over the last 2 years, looking and dreaming about what we want and having reality checks happen on a regular basis to keep us in line and show us what is actually possible. We've been releasing what no longer fits if we have any hope of actually manifesting those dreams. And we've been learning to loosen timelines, identities, and attachments to how things should look. For many people, this period hasn't been loud or productive on the surface. It's been more internal or emotional, quiet, and sometimes even confusing. Pisces is also something that can keep, or a sign that keeps us sort of in the illusion and being confused and not having a clear idea of what's to come because it's asking us to dream about what it is that we want. And yet, real change has been happening beneath the surface. Now that we're with the Aquarius new moon and that it's the Aquarius sign that is leading off these eclipses, this is a preview of a much bigger transition that's going to be unfolding over the next year and over the 2 years to come. It opens up a brand new chapter, one that's asking us not only to define what we want, but to decide how our dreams are going to evolve just beyond the potential that we see in our vision, in what we are hoping to achieve. At the same time as this eclipse, the eclipse happens on February the 17th. At the same time, the sun is going to be moving into the sign of Pisces. The sun is our vision moving forward. It's what we are going towards. It's what we are hoping to achieve. It's our ego. It's our vitality, our energy in our life. With the sign moving into this particular sign, it's completing its journey through all 12 zodiac signs and throughout as it does every year. But this is the final sign of the zodiac, Pisces. And so this comes to completion. And it really is this opportunity to pause and notice and review what we've just moved through over the last year and a half. When we take into consideration, it hasn't just been the last year, the 12 months that we've moved through the cycle, but moving through those eclipses, it's been almost a year and a half, and that year and a half will continue to play out in the months to come. Where were you this time last year? What have you released? What has softened? And what has been clarified for you? Even if this progress has been subtle, it still counts. And the next 4 weeks, as they unfold, the Aquarius lunar cycle is going to help us shift our focus. Instead of what is my dream, we're now starting to question, how can this be useful beyond me? How can this contribute to others? How can what I'm building meet more of the collective need? How can I share my passions with other people that are passionate about the same things and have it be useful to them? This is where the Aquarian theme of innovation comes in with relevance to how we can give of ourselves to meet the greater needs and interests of those that we feel we belong amongst. Aquarius asks us to think in systems, in networks, in communities, and in shared futures. Earlier, I mentioned that each lunar cycle gives us 4 natural points of evolution. Really, all cycles, no matter what we're looking at, goes through these 4 points. And this is the basis of my work and why I coined cycle points as the name of my business. The moon, as I mentioned, because it's that anchor that can go through this process with its 4 phases every month, is a perfect example of this. It provides an anchor to practice and apply using these points for personal development each and every month. The new moon at the start of a cycle is a point of clarity where we begin to notice its theme in our daily life and in the life arena or arenas that it's showing up most strongly. This is week 1. In week 2 of the cycle, the first quarter moon provides a point of awareness. This is often a crisis point for transforming within the theme of the cycle. The sign that the first quarter moon falls under will provide a different theme, a sub-theme to the overall theme. And this shows us what we need to work on and the life arenas that need to be worked on in order to evolve the clarity that we've been gaining from the beginning of the cycle during week 1. In week 3, it illuminates the point of accountability with the full moon. This is where we start to act upon the clarity and awareness that we're gaining. It's also a time for us to hold others accountable. Are they showing up in their own clarity and awareness? Are they supportive of our growth? Are they representing a mirror of what still needs to be worked on or what we still need to grow? The accountability point is heavily influenced by the sign that the moon is in at this time, which also gives us a different sub-theme, as well as the life arenas or the areas of our life that are most affected. I'll note that the full moon is a natural point of reflection to the clarity that was received 6 months prior to that, during the new moon in the same sign. So we always have the new moon, and then 6 months later, when we're in a totally different cycle, under a totally different new moon cycle, we have that full moon during that cycle, and that is a reflection of 6 months before. It's therefore also an opportunity for us to be holding ourselves accountable for the progress or the lack of progress that we've been making during that time. And finally, week 4 of the lunar cycle is a choice point. This is where reflective discernment comes into play. We choose what we will continue to work with moving forward, who we will continue to work with, live with, and relate with, and what we will complete so that we can free up our energy. Also, what we might want to release because it's no longer part of our journey. It's no longer serving us. It's no longer taking us forward in our growth. The choice point is influenced by the sign that the moon is under at this time with its own sub-theme and affects the life arenas that are most affecting us personally, depending on our own charts and where those energies are showing up for us individually. So as a recap, the 4 cycle points are clarity in week 1, awareness in week 2, accountability in week 3, and choice in week 4. Now we can look at these points as they pertain to the Aquarius lunar cycle. So we begin receiving clarity during week 1 of the Aquarius lunar cycle, which has, as I mentioned, the new moon solar eclipse on February the 17th. And this is a moment where our intention sharpens, inviting clarity around which dreams we're ready to evolve, around which ideas we want to be sharing, and around which visions we're meant to live beyond the private space of our own imagination. We've been in that private space of imagination, sharing here and there, getting the reality checks, getting the feedback from other people, but now it's time. We're ready to move forward with those dreams, and we want to take it outside of our own personal private space. There's also an important energetic shift right after this eclipse that I'm going to share. So this is bringing in other planets. Some of this might be more advanced. I'm sure people that are listening to this have been listening to lots of astrologers talk about the conjunction between Saturn and Neptune. So these 2 planets are coming together. On February 20th, Saturn and Neptune, which are the planet of reality and the planet of illusions, meet at the threshold of Aries, the sign of new beginnings, independence, assertiveness, and spark. This is a very rare meetup between dreams and discipline that begins a whole other new cycle that it's been quietly working towards that over the last number of years. We've been experiencing reality check after reality check, especially since last summer, after we got a brief taste of what could be possible last spring when these 2 planets were so close to meeting up, but they didn't actually meet. This is finally where vision meets reality. They are finally going to be in this conversation. But inspiration is also asking us for structure so that our clarity can begin to turn into forward motion. Saturn is asking us to be real, to be disciplined, to follow some structure, follow some rules. And Neptune, who actually rules Pisces, as I already mentioned, is very dreamy, full of illusions, full of the visions and the goals that we want. And these two are getting together finally to have a final discussion about what it is that this next chapter is going to bring. And it's coming in the sign of Aries, the start of the whole zodiac cycle. Coincidentally or not, the moon is also in Aries that day, which is reinforcing this message. The beginning has finally arrived. The question becomes, what are you willing to take responsibility for now? The first quarter moon leads off the second week of the lunar cycle with the awareness point. It occurs on February the 24th in the sign of Gemini. Gemini's sub-theme here is process, and it looks at how we can take information and communicate it with others. This week introduces a bit of friction, not as a setback, but as information to work with as we figure out how to share our ideas, how to share our passions and our efforts with like-minded people. Gemini is really about communication, learning, and responsiveness. It asks us to observe how our ideas are landing and how we're responding to those reactions in return. During this phase, awareness develops around feedback, conversations, what we find curious versus what makes us feel anxious, and how adaptable our plans can be. This is where Aquarius's innovation meets real-world input. Our ideas need room to circulate in order to evolve. They need movement. They need flow of information. And they also need to have multiple points of connection so that we can see how we can bring this beyond ourselves to the world around us and to the groups that we belong to. Notably, the sun will also have a meeting with the North Node in Pisces around this time. And the North Node, when I say that, is really just the point of where these eclipses have been. And pretty soon the North Node will be in Aquarius, which is what this solar eclipse right now is all about. But it still hasn't quite finished its journey through Pisces, where we've been dreaming and bringing up what our potential possibly can be and idealizing our future. So the sun, as I also mentioned earlier, is all about our life, our vitality, where we want to go, what our purpose is, what the direction is. And it's shining light on that. And it's shining light on this North Node in Pisces. So remember that Pisces is a sign that has been giving us that direction through its eclipses over the last year or so. This is another reminder for us of how far we've come and how close vision and reality now really are. Where are we going with this? This is a vision, and Saturn is there in the background, helping to give us a clear direction, a clear path with clear guidelines and clear structure and framework to get us there. March 3rd begins the third week of the lunar cycle with the full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Virgo. So this is the second eclipse that we'll be going through in this period, in this 4-week period. And Virgo energy is opposite to dreamy Pisces. The sub-theme in this cycle for Virgo is to manage. So remember again, Pisces has been asking us to let go, to idealize, to follow our intuition over the last couple of years. And Virgo is much more of an earthy energy. It is earth energy, but it's earthy and it's practical. It's being of service to others. And that's its nature, as it's been asking us to release where these traits have been holding us back and creating toxic attachments, that we show up in service to people that it's draining of our energy or are not appreciative, or that energy is not reciprocated, with others that don't support our growth as we're trying to envision and idealize our future. Virgo, so the Pisces eclipses in the last year and a half, we have been matched with the Virgo eclipses. Those two are a pair. They sit opposite one another on the zodiac chart. And Virgo brings us back to the strong foundation and the framework that we're creating right now through our routines, through our resources, our health, and our energy and our management. It's been calling to us over the last year and a half or so to release the routines and the schedules and the way we give our time, money, energy, emotions to other people. It's been asking us to release the old ways of doing that so that we can make room for these new visions and how we want to show up in those. The full moon is a callback, remember, to 6 months ago, as we just kind of discussed before. And so when we do that, back then, 6 months ago, we were initiating new routines, new resources, ways of caring for ourselves and of supporting the management of our energies. In fact, last August and September, we had back-to-back new moons in Virgo, which was really, really allowing us for practice and then implementation of these new starts that we're going to support how we can actively make changes in our lives that are going to help push us forward in the direction that we want to go. The second of those new moons was the last solar eclipse in Virgo that we will have for the next 9 years. So that was the last of these new beginnings, these new things that we want to add into our life in terms of routines and new schedules and new ways of giving of our resources. And it's going to set us up for the next 9 years. This is how we are going to take care of ourselves and take care of our resources so that we can start to build our vision and our ideals forward. This is really being cementing the new setup to build that framework upon. The full moon lunar eclipse that is happening this month in a couple of weeks is occurring. It's going to be the last one, the last full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo that we're going to have for 9 years as well. So we just wrapped up that last solar one. It's the solar eclipse 6 months ago, and this will be the last lunar eclipse that we're going to have in the sign for the next 9 years, meaning that we're being held accountable for the changes to our routine, schedules, resources, health, and energy, like I just said, that we hope to get started on. What have you been doing in the last 6 months? Has your schedule changed? Has the way you manage yourself changed? Have you provided yourself with new routines, new workouts, new diets, new ways of managing your time at work, new ways of working with people in the work environment, the way so that you can be showing up in service to working together in a healthy way? Tied to this Aquarius lunar cycle, it also highlights our support systems, and we're seeing where others are being held accountable for their changes as well, and also how they show up in support of ours. How are you actually supported? How are you actually supporting what you say that you want? Who are you building those dreams with? Who are you building your future with? Who benefits from your growth? And where does the care that you are taking feel mutual, and where does it feel draining? Virgo reminds us that service begins with sustainability. If the system doesn't work, the vision cannot survive. This is where Aquarius calls to serve, the collective becomes practical. This is where we want to say, yes, I want to be of service to other people. I want to build something that's beyond myself, but it needs to be practical and I need to be able to sustain it. I need to learn how to manage it properly and not just idealize it. Manage is the Virgo theme and idealize is the Pisces theme. How can we take those two and make them more real so that we can take it and evolve with it and make it something that's lasting? And finally, week 4 is the choice point of the lunar cycle with the last quarter moon in the sign of Sagittarius occurring on March the 11th. The sub-theme in this cycle for Sagittarius is explore. It widens or expands our perspective. It asks us to step back and look at the bigger picture. It wants us to connect with our values, our philosophies, our spirituality, to share and teach others from whatever point it is within us that we are passionate about and we want to broadcast to the world, and we want to learn more from other people about how we can bring more depth to that. What are you ready to stand behind publicly? What outdated beliefs are you ready to release in order to evolve? And what version of the story no longer fits with who you're becoming? This is where we choose the ideas we want to learn more about and feel ready to share, where we choose to seek perspectives that will help us evolve our plans further, where we look for ways to express ourselves beyond our inner circles in order to contribute with those who share similar passions and interests and take it beyond ourselves to the greater society, to the greater world. I would be remiss if I left out the importance of the upcoming Mercury retrograde cycle, taking us from now until April the 9th. Many people have heard about Mercury retrograde. We associate Mercury retrograde with mix up communications, technology, things that really set us back and go wonky in terms of our transportation and our emails and just information in general being misguiding, right, during that time. Mercury is going to be in Pisces during this entire cycle of retrograde, which really is even more confusing. As I mentioned earlier, Pisces is dreamy and illusionary, and it's not based on anything practical, whereas Mercury itself loves being practical. It actually rules the sign of Virgo and it rules the sign of Gemini. Those are very quick thinking and like plan-based and very practical signs that are easily, well, in one regard, they're easily adaptable. They can move forward and change their plans and get things going. So this period of time is really asking us to hone in on our ideas, our plans, and how we're communicating them to be sure that we've gotten it right, so that by the time we get to the spring and we enter into the new zodiac year with Aries season, our sparks know what to light up and set ablaze with our efforts. It's going to push us into the right direction. But before we can get to that energy of the new beginning, if we remember from the beginning of the video, we were talking about Saturn and Neptune meeting in the sign of Aries for the first time in gazillions of years, but they're going to meet here, and this is to start off this new beginning with this great amount of energy and direction and light to our dreams that we've been building over the last few years. So this Mercury retrograde right now is really a time to hone in on what those dreams and illusions that we've had for ourselves and the reality checks that Saturn's been flying our way. We really get to sit with this and figure out what is what's going to be real, where we have lost some information, some direction, how we can make sure that we're super clear and that our plans are super clear and that we know who we're discussing our plans with and that that communication is crystal sharp so that we have our set goals moving forward. Mercury retrogrades are always about editing, reviewing, reassessing, and reorganizing. This is not a time to be rushing our outcomes. It's a time to refine the translation between dream and reality. As with all cycles, we can look at the cycle points of Mercury retrograde for insight, understanding, and foresight as to what we're being asked to refine, review, reassess, and reorganize. So as with every other cycle that we look at, this Mercury retrograde also has its 4 points of clarity, awareness, accountability, and choice that are going to help direct us and guide us throughout the 6 weeks that will be within this cycle. On February the 12th, we begin receiving clarity on what's starting to pile up that's pertaining to our plans, the information that we're working with, how it's being communicated, and where there's possible miscommunication. This is the shadow phase of the cycle, and we will be returning to what comes up during this time and fixing it over the weeks to come as we build out the rest of the cycle. On February the 26th, we start to experience the missteps, the lack of communication, the misunderstandings, the mix-ups of schedules, and the issues that come up in travel or trying to send out information. This is so that we have the opportunity to go back and make sure that we've included all that's needed so that, and that others that we're working with can also do the same thing. If we want to bring our dreams into reality, they should make sense, they should be organized, and they should be very well thought out. This is the retrograde phase of the cycle where we are reviewing the pileup that's been building since February 12th, so right around last week. On March the 21st, the reviewing, the replanning, the reorganization comes to a finish, but we're not in the clear yet. This is the direct phase of the cycle. We're still implementing the changes that have come up and finalizing meetings, appointments, communications, travel plans, etc., that will ultimately be part of making our visions and goals real moving forward once we get to that spring equinox and our fire that's going to push us forward. And on April 9th, we are finally clear of these challenges and these disruptions. This is the forward phase of the cycle when Mercury will continue on its journey through the zodiac, finally taking leave of Pisces not long after to enter into Aries. And from there, we're now able to stay on task of our goals, our projects, our collaborations, and progressions to ignite the spark and bring our dreams to life. You may notice as I was sharing the dates of this Mercury retrograde cycle that it will take us not just through the Aquarius lunar cycle of this month, but also through the Pisces lunar cycle that's going to come up next month. We'll touch more about just how powerful and significant the double down focus of Pisces energy will be when I do that video coming up in the next few weeks or so. But for now, it's enough to know that all of this will be just in time for the Aries new moon and the birth of something new as we enter into spring. And as we close out this overview, I want to bring us back to the heart of Aquarius, these 4 weeks that are in lineup ahead of us. Aquarius's theme is innovation, and this month it really is about innovation with purpose, not innovation for attention, not for disruption, although disruption is a very Aquarian part. There's a lot of rebellion and to disrupt a system to make something new. But at this point in time, this innovation is really about for relevance, for the ways our ideas, our goals, our efforts can actually become useful beyond ourselves. If the last year and a half has asked you to dream, release, and revision what's possible, this cycle begins asking a different kind of question. What are you ready to build into reality, and who does it serve? If you feel like you're on the edge of something, but it isn't finally or fully clear yet, it's not a problem. It's part of the timing. With Mercury moving through Pisces and the retrograde cycle that's unfolding into early April, this is a season for refinement, for editing, for reworking the language, the structure, the systems that will make your vision sustainable. Nothing has to be rushed. The goal is not for speed, but it is for alignment. So use the weeks ahead to notice what wants to evolve, what needs support, and what you're choosing to carry forward as we move toward Aries season and the beginning of the new zodiac year. If you'd like guidance working through this cycle in a grounded and personal way, whether you're navigating transition, rebuilding after loss, trying to break old patterns, or preparing to step into something new, this is exactly what I do. You'll find my offering and ways to work together linked below. And I thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next cycle.